Hello everyone. This is the seventh class for social psychological perspectives on health. In the last two lectures, I talked about how social status is related to health. In general, higher social status is related to better health for both monkeys and for human beings. But the link between social status and health is not always simple, but instead it could be moderated by different factors. One of such factors is social support. So even for low status animals and human beings, if they have social support, then their impact of social status on health can be minimized to the extent that they have social support. And in particularly for human beings, the number of groups or multiple group memberships can minimize or reduce the impact of social status or low social status on negative health. And also, uh, permeability may influence the impact of negative status on health. Basically, if individuals see that they could leave the group, then they may leave the group so that they would not they can stop the negative impact of low status group membership. And also, there are some studies showing that leaving disadvantaged group is not always good for our health. That's because leaving low status group can be led to rejection by former group members as well as rejection from a new group members. So the relationship between social status and health can be pretty complicated. Furthermore, high status are not always happy either. So in general, higher status groups tend to have better health than lower status group, and that's because they tend to have more resources and then access to those resources. But higher status groups could be less healthy if their status position is threatened or unstable. And this was also the case for animal studies. This was also the case in animal studies. So even if they have dominant status in a group, if their status is unstable or can be threatened by subordinate members of the group, then high status animals tend to have lower healthy condition than lower status monkeys, and that's the case for human beings as well. So from here we will talk slightly different topic. Social identity resources facilitate adjustment to life transitions. Members of low status groups tend to struggle life transitions and changes more. And so to explain this, I will first review how social identity plays some roles in life transitions and changes. So there is a model proposed by the author of textbook and then other colleagues, which is called the social identity model of identity change, or in short, SIMIC. So in general, life transitions can be positive if they can provide new opportunities and experiences. For example, entering university gives students opportunities to extend their knowledge and develop critical thinking. So if this happens, then life transitions, or if this or other some like similar sort of things happen, then life transitions can be positive. But life transitions could be also negative if they take these away. these like new opportunities and experiences away. So for example, unemployment, be forced into early retirement or being diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, then this would be a negative life transition. And loss of valued important social identity will lead to cognitive decline and depression. There are several studies showing that loss of these identities can lead to cognitive decline and depression. But life transitions could be uh, negativity of life transitions can be uh, reduced by a new group membership. So a new group membership can buffer negative consequences of life transitions. If a university student identifies as a university student after losing a high school student identity, threats to well-being will be minimized. So life transition to university is unique in the sense that it is related to the loss of their high school student identity, but also related to a gain of university student identity. And this may be true when you graduate from a university too, and then you start working at companies. So basically, you will lose a university student identity, but also will gain as a member of a company where you are going to work. So losing university student identity can be a threat to your well-being. However, if you can successfully identify with a new company that you are going to work, then such threat to well-being will be minimized. And identity change is associated with uncertainty and often requires reorientation to the world. So as a university student, you may already have known how you should navigate yourself through this university life, like what time you should get out, what time you should go to school, what you should do in class, and then what kind of assignment you need to deal with, and then maybe you already know how to deal with those how to deal with those assignments. However, you may still not know like what you need to do at company or how you may interact with your colleagues as well as bosses. And those uncertainty can be a threat to your well-being, and you need to reorient or you need a new orientation to the world so that you can navigate yourself in a new environment. So a gain of new identity helps increase certainty and reduce uncertainty and give orientation. So by identifying with a company and then developing a new identity as a member of the company, then you are more likely to know how you should behave and then maybe who you are even. And then how you may know such like what would be appropriate or what kind of inappropriate, what's the norm of the company. You will look for some senior colleagues who can embody the norms of the company and then who can teach how you should behave and so on. And this is kind of related to hypothesis 13, when to the extent that people define themselves in terms of shared social identity, that identity will focus their energies and imbue them with a sense of meaning, purpose, and worth. So by identifying with a new identity, you can uh, gain meaning of your every day, and then you could also have purpose in your life, and then you can gain the worth of your worth like value in your life. Okay. So again, this is a social identity model of identity change. So life change or transition is generally has a negative impact on health and well-being. And this is because life change tends to in a life change, you tend to lose contacts that you used to have in the former group. And then also life change itself can be a negative event if you lose opportunities or, uh, maybe meaning of your life, or if that's unemployment, then you will lose a source of like finance. So in general, life change can be negative, but such negativity can be minimized if you have several factors that may be related to health and well-being. And there are two ways, social identity gain pathway and social identity continuity pathway. And the above route is related to gain. And then below route is continuity. Okay. So for the gain pathway, if you have multiple group memberships, you're more likely to gain new identities. And this is because multiple group membership can function like bonding capital. And then the more bonding capital you have, you can exert the power of bridging capital as well. So if you have more groups that you belong to, then you are more likely to identify with a new group. So that's a gain in new identities. And then gained new identities can be positively related to health and well-being. And then the lower path is called social identity continuity pathway. So if you have more multiple group membership before the transitions, then you are more likely to maintain such group memberships. And by having multiple group membership, that would help you to be help you to stay healthy and then have high well-being. Okay. The social identity gain pathway, gaining new identities provide a new sense of grounding and belonging, or self-definition, and new source of social support. And this is basically why social identity gain pathway can help you to stay healthy and then have higher well-being. So let's think again about become start working at a company. So by identifying with the company, you can gain a new sense of grounding. So as a member of the company, you can understand several things in your life, like why this is important, why this is not important, or how I should understand this thing, and so on. So if you don't identify with certain company, then same event would have totally different meaning, or they could be even meaningless. But because, you belong to a particular company and you work for the company, and some certain things would have meanings for your company and that's for yourself. Okay. So this is related to hypothesis 14. When and to the extent that people define themselves in terms of shared social identity, they will expect to give each other support, actually give each other support, and consider the support they receive more positively. So this is related to the last part of this sentence. Gaining new identities provide a new source of social support. So if you don't identify with your new company, then you really don't know why other people would help you. And then you could be suspect that maybe I'm putting burden on them. But if you can identify with the group and you can truly feel that you are a member of the group, then you will be so thankful to the support that other people can provide you, and then you are more likely to accept such support positively. And that would be, of course, will lead to better well-being compared to when you suspect why the people in your company help you, you know. And there are several studies showing that how belonging to multiple groups can give you resilience and better mental health. And some of the examples are like life satisfaction after the stroke. So when people get stroke, and then if they belong to multiple groups before the stroke, and then if they can maintain multiple group membership after the stroke, then they are more likely to have better life satisfaction after the stroke and well-being among students transitioning to university. So this is basically, yeah, I will talk in more detail later. And also there is a study showing that women becoming males tend to have higher, better mental health if they belong to multiple groups. And then older adults retiring from work. So I will not cover chapter 7 in this course, but if you're interested, then I recommend you to read the chapter 7 by yourself. And then also there are several studies showing that multiple group memberships can help uh, reduce the symptoms of depression. And that will be covered in chapter 8. And then I will also cover the chapter 8 in this course. So maybe you could wait, or actually, I will go into chapter 8 in the next or the lecture after the next lecture. So you can start reading chapter 8 if you want. So anyway, go back to the study done by Ayer on the well-being among students transitioning to university. So this is basically what they did and what they found. So they studied at a British university, and they basically asked British university students to complete a survey. And the survey was distributed 1 month before the start of the first year. So this is time one. And they asked the same students to complete another survey 2 months after the start of the first year. Okay. And then they found that those who belong to multiple groups tend to have higher identification as university student after 2 months after the start of the first year. So basically, there was a positive association between multiple group membership before the transition and identification as a university student. And those who identify more strongly with a university tend to have lower level of depression. So there was a negative association. So again, identification, in-group identification can work as a psychological resource. And because of that, identification is negatively related to depression. And multiple group membership can function as bonding and bridging capitals, and so that those who belong to multiple groups tend to be successful at identifying with university students. Okay. So this was a study conducted with British university students, but I myself also did a study with with Japanese students. So this study was done with students in university in Kyoto, and participants were first year students, and then they completed the first T1 time one survey in August. And they responded to questions about maintenance of multiple group membership and identification as a university student, and also perceived stress. Okay. Oops. And perceived stress was like some items like I feel nervous or I feel I am a valueless person. Okay. And what I found was basically consistent with what I found. So those who have more groups, those who belong to more groups tend to show stronger identification as a university student, and those who showed a strong identification as a university student tend to report less stress, like less nervous in them. They didn't think that they are valueless. Okay. So multiple group membership was positively related to identification as a university student, and the identification was negatively related to their well-being. So pretty consistent with what I found with British students. So this really shows that regardless of nationality or culture they may have, multiple group membership as well as identification with their in-group can help them to be healthy. Okay. And then I also asked students to complete the survey in December. Asked the same students to complete the survey in December. And what I found was the identification in August was positively related to the identification in December. So meaning that the levels of identification in August can predict how strongly these students identify as university student in 4 months later. Okay. And also this the level of identification as a university student in December was negatively related to perceived stress in December. And I think what interesting was that perceived stress measured in August did not predict the strength of identification in December. So even if they are stressed out in August, it didn't interfere the students with identifying with university. Instead, the strength the degree that they identify with as a university student in August was important in terms of how they may strongly identify as a university student in December. So this tells the importance of supporting students to identify as university students as early as possible. And from the same data set, what I found was that how many friends they have are related to how strongly they could identify with the school, with the other university student. And then also how much opportunities they have to talk with their friends as well as professors. So, I think there are like several messages from these studies. One is, university should really help students to be able to identify as university student. And one of approach is to help them make new friends. And the other approach is to encourage entering students to keep their membership as well contact with their former groups that they used to belong. This is because multiple group membership is can help students to develop new identification. So, you know, when students come to university, they may think that they really should put focus on creating friends at university and then so that they can feel comfortable being at university. But this could backfire because s- focusing too much on creating new friends at university may, how can I say, interfere them to maintain their old friendships. And, losing old friendships can uh, undermine the level of identification as a university student. So I think it requires a balance between developing new identification as well as maintaining their old multiple group memberships. Okay. So disadvantage can be a barrier to successful social identity change. So I have been talking that low status tend to be related to lower status, and of course high status is can be also doesn't mean being in high status doesn't always mean that they tend to have good health, but in general there is a difference between high and low status group people in terms of their health, and then that's true for when they have life transitions. People over low status group have less access to social and material resources, and they tend to feel less control over their lives, and they face more barriers and constraints to realize their goals in life. So because of the differences in terms of resources and access to those resources, lower status people tend to have more difficulties in life transitions. And there are three different transitional contexts: education context, housing context, and the community context. So in these transitions, lower status people tend to have more difficulties, and such difficulties would translate into poor health. So let me see one by one. Educational context. So Ayer et al., the study I mentioned above here, also found that SES backgrounds are positively related to the number of social groups. So I mentioned in Ayer's study that the people who belong to multiple groups tend to have stronger social identification as a university student, and such identification can reduce the possibility that they develop depression. However, the first factor, multiple group membership, is related to their status. If they are on a high SES, they come from higher SES backgrounds, they tend to have multiple group memberships, and such multiple group membership can help them to develop new social identification, and thus they are less likely to develop depressive symptoms. So people from higher class backgrounds develop rich social networks composed of multiple groups. On the other hand, those SES students tend to belong to fewer groups, and thus they are less successful at taking on the new identity as a university student, and this leads to lower well-being. So I have been said that even if they are in low status groups, they can reduce the impact of social status on, they can reduce the negative impact of social status on health by belonging to multiple groups. But the number of groups they can actually belong can be influenced by which SES background they come from. And also, low status group people tend to perceive a university student identity as incompatible with their old identities. Low SES students feel that their new identity as a university student is less compatible with their previous ones. Most of their friends and families did not attend the university, and thus they would feel less comfortable and more likely to drop out. So basically, when students come from lower SES background, their friends and their families have never attended the university, and then they don't know uh, how to navigate themselves in university, and also they feel that how they used to perceive themselves as well as their families and friends are very different from how I perceive myself now, you know. So that they feel so much difference between how they have been lived before university and how they live now after transition to university. And because such incompatibility, their old identity and then current university student identity as incompatible, they feel less comfortable and then more likely to drop out. And also, people from lower social background, if they attend a university, that can be considered as individual mobility. So basically, they left their communities and come to university so that they can improve their social status. But that can be considered as a betrayal from their old group members. So they can be discriminated from old groups, but also because they come from lower social background, they may be discriminated from a new group members as they come from a different social backgrounds. So this is consistent with what I have mentioned before. An individual may be criticized by members of a group she or he left, while members of a group she or he newly joined may not treat him or her well. And then I gave an example of a study of African Americans, but the similar things could happen when people from lower social background come to a high status university. And furthermore, in general, people would feel, uh, well, if people cannot feel continuity between old and the current selves, such self-discontinuity is negatively related to well-being. So if they feel that, well, I'm not the person whom I used to be, then such kind of the sense of self-discontinuity can have a negative impact on well-being. And then this is the case when people from low social status background or socioeconomic status background come to a high status university, then how they perceive themselves as a current university student and how they used to perceive themselves as, for example, high school student or as a local person, they see so much differences between two and such incompatibility or discontinuity would negatively impact their well-being. Okay, I think I will just stop here and then I will finish the rest of chapter 5 in the next video.